dentists specifically, with the stress levels. I guess when you get to a point where you're not doing it just for the money, it's because of the passion. Now, this is where you're able to still do what you love to do and deliver quality without dealing with the stress that you're talking about. And obviously, the only way to do that is you also have to be using your money wisely by investing it.
You have to be in a position where, unlike most dentists in the UK and also in America, where they're not chasing targets financially. I need to hit the same numbers that I hit last month. Otherwise, my lifestyle is going to drop or whatever. The fear that they have, I've got a big mortgage. Okay, I can unpack this for ages. Huge amounts of high-income professionals, even especially Muslims as well, they have massive mortgages. First of all, obviously, we want to avoid mortgages, but even then, they get mortgages and they get massive mortgages, right? Ridiculously unnecessary mortgages for like 3, 4, 5 bedroom houses that they don't need, and they've got like a family, they've got a wife or a spouse, and they've got like 2 children. You don't need a 4 or 5 bedroom house.
Right.
So that's unnecessary. But yes, so once you can get to the point where you're not just chasing targets and you have like a financial safety net, something else, income coming in, or even just an investment portfolio that's providing and growing, that you know that you can rely on, then that gives you so much more mental capacity and mental space to focus on what we should have been focusing on from the beginning. And I'm not saying that most of these guys don't focus on their patients. I would say 90-95% they do. But you have to make a compromise at some point. You can't focus on your targets and give everything to your patients.
Right.
That's very, very difficult to do. So when you're in that position, when you're a little bit more financially available, financially free, you have that mental clarity, then your ability to focus on your patients and be the best clinician possible is infinitely easier.
Yeah. So basically, you're saying by being able to be financially independent through these investments, right? They're improving their own quality of life, improving the service they provide to their clients.
Absolutely.
And overall, everybody wins. And that's all by just making smart money decisions at the end.
100%. Absolutely. Now, if you consider the fact that, like I just said, right, most dentists are working 5 days a week. As I said, they're going to, at the peak of my career when I was working full time, I was seeing, as I said, 30 to 40 patients a day, right? Maybe 50% of those were live surgery where you have to anesthetize a patient. And unlike my father, he's a ENT surgeon. He's a pediatric consultant. He's retired now, but I've never said this to him, but his job is, I think, a lot easier than mine, right? Because he is treating patients, even though they're children, he's treating patients that are under general anesthetic. They're still, they're anesthetized, and he just does what he needs to do and then it comes out. We have to work on live patients 15, 20 times a day, doing surgery and anesthetic, local anesthetic, no general anesthetic, and underwater, because the mouth produces huge amounts of saliva, right? So we're doing surgery 15, 20 times a day on live patients underwater, and the patient's moving and all this other stuff, and you're trying to do fine surgery. There's a huge amount of stress there. So alhamdulillah, if you can get to that point, then everything improves. Your quality of life improves, your mental clarity improves, your clinical ability improves, the time that you're able to give to your children improves. Because that mental clarity and that mental space is important for all aspects of life. Alhamdulillah, at this point, I have allocated time in my weekly schedule for my children to take them swimming, horse riding, whatever, to go to a museum or any, here in the UAE, there's so much to do. So much to do, right? So I have time and allocated times to spend with my family, and I don't feel as though I'm shortchanging them because I'm working 40 to 60 hours a week. Do you understand? So alhamdulillah, I work very, very hard, but then when the time is allocated to my children, I'm able to dedicate that, give everything to them, focus on them without having my mind on other things. And that's what you can achieve when you are at that position, inshallah.
Yeah, because I mean, even if, like, let's say you do have to put in the hours anyway, let's say you have to do that, because as an entrepreneur, we have to put in the hours, right? But when the level of stress is magnified, now the hours actually, even though it may be, let's say, 40 hours, they double. Technically, like with the level of stress, it's as if you're working double or triple.
Absolutely.
So being able to be in a situation where you don't have to deal with the stress of, of dealing with so many clients because of hitting targets, but also you don't have the stress of money. and the stress of not giving your family enough time. I mean, I can imagine how that is life-changing. And isn't that what we're all chasing at the end of the day?
Course,
really?
100%.
Yeah, so, it's interesting because recently on our trip, I don't know if you heard the story of one of the brothers that was there who was a dentist. And he went through this ordeal, right? Of, getting his license. And then eventually when he got it and he started practicing, he hated it. Right? And I can imagine what you're telling us now with the stress level, all this stuff. I can see why one will hate it. Right? Even though they love what they're doing, they want to do this. But because of the stress level with the targets and, all the other pressure that goes into it, and not being also financially smart, if I can say that, right? Which is why it's important to learn, to have a good relationship with money. You're not getting that 5-bedroom home when you don't need it. You're a bachelor, or you're a single man, or you a man with one child. You don't need a 5-bedroom home just so they can say Dr. Fulan, has a huge home.
That's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Right.
So there's two things there. First of all, as I said, I've realized that actually we spent 5-6 years dedicated to learn how to become dentists and clinicians, doctors, right? We want to be able to give our energy to our patients and be the best clinician possible. But when they're overworked, that is when people hate their job, right? So when you're not overworked, then you can actually enjoy your career, right? And the second thing, exactly as you said, this goes across the board for, I would say, even people who are not high income professionals, right? But it's the damage is emphasized when you have someone making $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month. Especially when they're not taught financial management, the financial decisions are just horrible. I'll mention this. I had one client who joined us. They were making $20,000 a month as a dentist, right? Mid-30s. And they were spending $20,000 a month.
Oh.
And I had to have a difficult conversation with them. And they're doing amazing now. But we had to have the difficult conversation that, listen, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
You're spending things on God knows what, for these material goods and hotels and holidays. You're enjoying the time now. And I'm not saying don't stop enjoying yourself. I'm saying enjoy yourself, but just pull back a bit. You can very comfortably enjoy yourself on $10,000 a month.
At least.
Right? You don't need 20,000. And this person is, they have a big family.
Right.
If you've got a big family, fair enough, right? It's excusable to maybe spend $20,000 if you've got a very big family. It's just yourself or your spouse, or you've got 1-2 kids. That's not reasonable at all. Pull back, invest just for 5, 10, 15 years. Do some delayed gratification, and then you can enjoy the rest of your life. This is something that's so important to understand, is that people say, oh, you need to enjoy yourself when you're young. Okay, you can also enjoy yourself and prepare for the future, because as we get older, our energy is going to go down. It's not going to get easier to work. So if you shoot yourself in the foot and start enjoying yourself and spending all your money now, you're going to be working until you're 70 years old.
Yeah.
Whereas if you can delay gratification and you can put it off a little bit, then you can still enjoy yourself just a little bit, and you'll enjoy it more when you spend on the holidays and even the material. I don't like telling my clients to spend on material goods. I tell them buy experiences, right? So even those things, when you delay gratification and you pull back a bit, you'll enjoy those experiences more because you work so hard for it, right? And then, you can do that and you can still enjoy yourself, but now you're investing for the future, so that literally by the time you're 35, 40, you don't have to work, or you can work less, and you don't have that pressure that I have to work until I'm 70 because I don't have any backup, financial backup.